So I just finished the first 5 volumes of Hat Atelier. Now, I don't usually read manga or watch anime. This is actually only the second manga that I've read, but the art style really grabbed me, so I had to give it a go. And I'm not sure if this will show up on the camera, but like the art style is very, I would say, Art Deco inspired. There's lots of like frames and borders that are very elaborate, very decorative. I just really like the art style in it. The very dark lines outlining and the sort of the hatching that is done to, it just really stands out to me. And honestly, again, I haven't read hardly any manga, but to me it didn't feel as sort of stylized as a lot of other manga. Like, it wasn't, I don't know, it almost felt Western, the drawing style at first, which might sound ridiculous because it is still very much an anime. It's very much a manga sort of style. But the story itself, so I think this is sort of meant for young girls. Is the target audience, I would say. I know a lot of like 12-year-old girls who would be all over this. Yeah, so I've read the first 5 volumes. There are currently 13 out, I believe, and they're still writing and creating more. Which is one interesting thing about manga, is that the author, I didn't even say the name of the author, it's Kamome Shirihama. So Kamome Shirihama is creating the art, but also writing the story, which maybe that's the same with comic books, like Western comic books. I don't think so. I think usually they have a writer and an artist, but in this it is both. The writer and the artist are the same, which you have to be very talented to create this sort of thing. Anyway, so I've read the first 5 volumes, but I probably won't read any more. The story is just not really for me. It's not bad, but I find this with a lot of anime and not manga, because I haven't read enough of it, but it starts really interesting with a great premise, but then it quickly becomes very generic and stereotypical and follows it's just a set formula that kind of bores me. So like this one, again, the art's amazing, but the story itself, this is a world where magic exists, but it's only the purview of witches, and witches are born, not made. You're either born with the ability to cast magic or you're not. You can't learn it. And this girl, she's not a magician, she's not a witch, but she really wants to be. She just is obsessed with magic. But it turns out that that's not actually the case, that in this world anyone can do magic. You just need the proper ink and the proper seals. So if you draw these magical seals with this proper ink, that's how magic is cast. However, magic is controlled by the witches. There was a great war, and a whole bunch of types of magic were banned after this huge war, and magic was then only the purview of witches, these people who kept a monopoly on it by erasing the memory of everyone else, so that they believe that witches are born and not made, when that's not actually the case. So this little girl, she catches a witch drawing circles and seals, and she's like, oh, that's like my book that I have. She has this book that she got from a bad witch, and also a magical pen. And so she starts drawing some of the things from her book, and then she casts magic because of it. She turns her mother into stone, and because of this, she has cast forbidden magic, so she has to have her memory erased. But this witch, Kifri, it takes her in as his apprentice. He sort of has ulterior motives where he, for whatever reason, is trying to catch these evil witches, the brimmed hat witches. If they have a brim on their hat, that means they use the forbidden magic. And so he's using her to try and track them down. So he brings her to his atelier, where he has these 3 other apprentices. They're all like 10, 12-year-old girls. So there's 4 of them. There's Coco, who's the main character. There's Tetsuya, who's sort of the bubbly, happy personality. There's Riche, I think it's Riche, who's sort of the very reserved, quiet, aloof one. And then there's Agot, who is the very sort of angry, super hardworking, and super intelligent, and don't get in my way. I've got to do this. And she's got black hair. Again, they're very like stereotypes. And then so the four of them live with this man Kifri, who is like their dad kind of, and he's their master. And then there's also this other man who is like friends with Kifri, who also lives in the atelier. And yeah, and so the story goes with sort of this conflict of the brimmed hats, the sort of evil witches who are trying to use Coco for something, and Kifri was trying to use Coco to get at the brimmed hat witches, and then Coco's and the apprentice's adventures of just learning magic and taking various tests to become proper witches. And like I said, after the initial volume, it becomes like just a generic anime, and like by the fifth volume they're introducing new characters, and sort of the witch police force has a number of characters, and yeah, it's the world sort of ramps up much like any sort of world building fantasy world does. One aspect of the story that I really liked is that is how the whole thing is kind of a metaphor for art, for learning how to draw, learning how to create art. There's sort of a misunderstanding out there that artists are born, not made, much like in this book, witches are born and not made. And the story is very much like, oh, I'm really bad at drawing. I mean, literally, they're drawing seals, so they talk about how they're bad at drawing, and they need to practice it, and they need to study other artists. And then there's the one who, I want to create my own art, or I want to create my own magic. I don't want to copy others' art. And she sort of comes to the realization that even if I'm learning from the styles of others and sort of the forms of the classics and the masters, my art is still my own, and how art can be a synergy of old and new, and you don't have to just have your own art. And it's like such a metaphor for art. And how there's one character who sort of, the Coco, the main character, she struggles at first. She's awful at drawing, but she worked as a clothing, something to do with clothing, where she had to use she could draw really straight lines to cut the fabric straight, and so that was her talent, and that was her strength. And so her drawing should focus on drawing really straight lines, like focus on what you're good at, and keep practicing, and how like the growth mindset of you can always get better as long as you keep practicing at it. So I did really like that aspect of it, where it's clearly like I'd love to give this to someone who wants to be an artist, like a child who wants to be an artist but thinks that, oh, I'm not good enough, or oh, I don't have the talent, and yeah, as long as you work at it, you can achieve it and become just as good an artist as anyone else. Yeah, I don't think I'll continue reading it, mostly due to the fact that these like manga is so expensive. It's like $17 for a book, and you can read a book in a day. For me to buy the rest of the series, it's like $250, which is like a lot, and it's not finished, so it's going to keep coming out. But I would recommend it if you know a girl in middle school or in high school or whatever. I think she'd love it. Of course, depending on who she is or what she likes, but I think that's the demographic this is meant for. The art style is just phenomenal, though. I love the art style. I do love that manga has such a uniform format. It just looks really nice on the shelf, and it's just the perfect size. I really like these matte covers as well. They feel really nice. But yeah, that was Hat Atelier volumes 1 to 5. Not bad, but just kind of not really my thing.